sing other people's songs because I can barely sing my own. But about 5 or 6 years ago, Merle Haggard put a version of If I Could Only Fly out on record, a Blaze Foley song. I started asking around. I said, where can I get a Blaze Foley record? I want to hear him sing If I Could Only Fly. And the more people I asked, the more people looked at me really strange. Turns out that we knew each other back in the 70s. You know, I'm imagining we probably met at Armadillo World Headquarters. And if you walked out the back door there, you could very well hang out with somebody for a week and not even know their name, you know? So, I hope we had a good time. Anyway, I got two various friends, Blazes and friends of mine that gave me a bunch of his records and tapes, and I was listening to him sing If I Could Only Fly, and I heard him sing this song here, and it just blew me right out of my chair. I thought, my God, that sounds like I should have stayed awake and wrote that sometime. You know? It's called Clay Pigeons. Station, gonna buy a ticket to ride. I'm gonna find that lady with 2 or 3 kids and sit down by her side. Ride till the sun comes up and down around about 2 or 3 times. Smoking cigarettes in the last seat. Sing my song for the people I meet and get along with it all. Where the people say y'all. Sing a song with a friend, change the shape that I'm in, and start playing again. I'd like to stay, but I might have to go to start over again. I might go back down to Texas, or go to somewhere that I've never been, and get up in the morning, go out at night, and I won't have to go home. Get used to being alone. Change the words to the song and start singing again. Questions that I already know. I could build me a castle with memories just to have somewhere to go. Count the days and the nights that it takes to get back in the saddle again. Feed the pigeons some clay. Turn the night into day. And start talking again when I know what to say. Down to the Greyhound Station, going buy a ticket to ride. I'm gonna find that lady.
Well, I went down to the Greyhound Station and caught a bus and rode. When I first started school at Eastern Kentucky University, I was kind of homesick going back and forth to Lexington. Actually, I lived down in Woodford County, a little tenant house on a farm back on Clear Creek, and I hated school. I hated education, and still do. And I'd catch a Greyhound bus out of Richmond, Kentucky, and ride it to Lexington. And then when I got to Lexington, I'd just have to call some friends or anybody, women, pick me up. They got where they just, back then the Greyhound bus just drop you on a country road.
Yeah.
If I say stop this thing, let me out. It was Richmond Road or wherever it was. I didn't necessarily go down to the bus station.
Yeah.
And but I rode that Greyhound bus station and rode that Greyhound bus, back and forth on country roads and different places. And I even took a Greyhound bus one time. Believe it or not, my parents let me do it when I was a senior in high school. And I went up into eastern Kentucky, Jenny Wiley State Park, and spent a week up there. Seemed like a week, night into day and day into night, change night into day. And caught some crappie with a buddy of mine and met some other associates up there, partners in crime, and rode a bus back. And they threatened. We were so bad sitting in the back of the bus. We'd met some girls up there, and they wanted to stop the bus and put us off, because we were having too good a time.
Getting a little unruly.
It's like partying. But those are the things that really make your life meaningful. It's not going to church. It's Greyhound buses, man. I'm telling you. And talking about leaving the Bluegrass and the Lexington area, Woodford County, where I was from, and traveling to eastern Kentucky. And I say that because, Kentucky has different regions. And, John Prine, who was playing that music, that famous one about Muhlenberg County.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that?
Yeah. Oh, that's one.
Yeah.
I'm more like that. I know that one. Yeah.
Yeah. This is called Clay Pigeons, and that's my favorite one that he does. But he's done a lot, and I really like him. Like to think about him. I listen to him a lot. He kind of brings me down, but so does Kentucky oftentimes. Kentucky lifts you up and brings you down. But we've talked about the regions of Kentucky and how that affects the people, and I just can't emphasize that enough. That it really depends. You are who you are, Jameson, because of you come from Rockcastle County.
Oh yeah, that's right, boys.
That's right, boys, and you're proud of it, and that's great. And I grew up in the Bluegrass. I'm not so proud of that. I hate to say, I'd be more proud if I was from Rockcastle, I think, because I like, the rural areas. But, gosh, we've seen, in recent elections, the difference in America and in Kentucky, too. I mean, we have an urban country and we have a rural country. And totally different values, different ideas about how things ought to be. And we forget that. And I'll tell you, what shapes that, in part, is the land. Yeah. It really does. It's the land. Whether it's the horse farms in the Bluegrass or whether it's the mountains in eastern Kentucky, those are the two extremes. Or where we're sitting right now in Crab Orchard, the Knobs. Yeah. They're a world of their own, too. And a lot of people don't know a lot about the Knobs. Yeah. They really don't. Yeah. And when you get over around Berea, which is in the Knobs, the heart of the Knobs, the center of the Knobs, you move on east and you're into eastern Kentucky. I mean, there's no really dividing line there. There is when you go from the Knobs into the Bluegrass. It starts leveling out. Yeah. But there's different characteristics of each of Kentucky's 6 regions that shape the people. Yeah. Well, some of them have cone heads, and, sharp pointed noses, and hammerheads, and no heads, and shaved heads, and it all depends on, where you're living, and the women are different too. Some of them cook you cornbread and beans and with onions and all in it, and others don't even know what brown beans are, or cornbread.
Well, I guess my first question, of course, is what is the real difference with the Knobs versus Eastern Kentucky? Or
red squirrel and gravy. That's it. If it's not Kentucky, like you say, it's not worth a hill of beans, but that's true. Whether they do fox squirrel and gravy or gray squirrels and no gravy. Or no squirrel at all. Yeah. So when you get over into eastern Kentucky, you're talking about fox squirrels and gravy. And that's where you crossed over the line. When you go to the restaurant.
These aren't visible lines.
They're not
eating lines.
They are kind of. Yeah. When you find yourself in one of these dives, or in somebody's home, log house. You can smell the difference. The houses in eastern Kentucky, they smell differently than they do in the Bluegrass. They really do. I don't know if you've ever been in very many of them.
I've been in a few.
Frame houses. They smell different. Some smell like wood smoke, and nice hickory, and, others smell like Lysol. Seriously. And that's really the difference. And, I was a 4th grade teacher for 34 years, and I taught that. Yeah. That's all. I gave them a test, and I said, how do you know the knobs from Eastern Kentucky? And it's a type of squirrel.
Oh, yeah.
You know, or
There you go.
the bluegrass. And, you know, when we talked about, I need to quit saying you know. That's something that's very aggravating. I get mad at myself when I hear myself say that. But we talked about where to settle, if you could settle anywhere you wanted to, and where they settled forts like Boonesboro, Harrodsburg, Fort Logan. And it was good farmland.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't settle on the side of a cliff.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
When they had a choice of some lush, rich soil to grow corn for whiskey or whatever they were doing, like we've talked about before. And a lot of that was in central Kentucky, and that's where the early settlers lived. But, you know, there's wonderful facts, there's wonderful attributes about each region, and I'll talk a little bit about it. You know, the Pennyroyal is the largest region, followed by the Eastern Mountains and Coalfield in eastern Kentucky. The mountains, of course, are famous for their timber and their coal, as you well know. Recreation today, you know, we have wonderful like Cumberland Falls State Park and
Yeah.
Natural Bridge, and gosh, you just name it, you know, Jenny Wiley State Park, and fishing and all kinds of stuff. Hiking trails, Red River Gorge, everybody likes
Yeah.
to go to. You know, when I was in Lexington growing up at UK, every weekend people just cut out and they'd go to the Red River Gorge and hang out and camp. I used to had a buddy, he and I'd go down there, and it seemed like every other weekend, and go underneath the rock shelter.
Yeah.
I could tell you stories and
We'd
spend the night and cook out. We'd need about 10 podcasts. My old friend Mark Morgan, we'd go down there, and man, we had some adventures and just beautiful times.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, gosh, man, it just made me, you know, who I am partly. You know, just being down there and camping out.
Yeah,
cooking
hiking around.
and just beautiful fall year. We even went in the winter. You know,
Now, I'll ask you this question: the trails that are there now, were they were those the same ones
they're
that you
still there.
all were
Yes.
on? Okay,
Yeah, they are. They ain't changed.
Yeah.
They haven't bulldozed them out yet. You know, we fought back then because they wanted to dam the Red River Gorge.
Really?
Oh, yeah. That was
Yeah.
huge, the Corps of Engineers. And when I was a freshman in college, and we protested, went to Frankfort and the capital, Windlebury, all those people, you know,
Yeah.
they said, no, don't dam up the gorge.
Yeah.
And that was huge, you know, for recreation. There was all this discussion and a fight with the government. You know, this is during the 70s and the Vietnam War and everything else, and the Red River Gorge. It made a lot of people, you know, want to preserve and protect, you know, the integrity of the naturalness of Kentucky,
The natural beauty.
the natural beauty. We talk about the bluegrass. You know, we've got major metropolitan areas.
Yeah.
We got Lexington, Louisville, Frankfort, even Richmond counts, you know, down that way.
Covington.
Big time, you know, at the top. And you got the horse farms and the toddy tots, you know, and all, you know, all that. It's beautiful. There's no place like it in the world.
No.
I mean, you can't go anywhere and find that. And you got the Pennyroyal, named after the plant, which is the largest one, with Bowling Green and Hopkinsville. And you know, there's a lot of good farmland, corn, soybean, cattle. Then you got the western coal fields, where once again you enter coal, and that's where John Prine sang.
Yep.
He sang about Muhlenberg County, about his dad taking him down there. His dad was from there. I think John Prine was from Chicago, but his dad would often take him down there, and he wrote a song about that for his dad. And then the Jackson Purchase, which Andrew Jackson, when he was president, bought from the Indians down there. I think it was Chickasaw Indians. And I used to say the corn that grows down there in the Jackson Purchase, soils, you know, it's alluvial soil from where the Ohio River and the Mississippi join, and the Tennessee River too, to the east, Cumberland River. Just incredible corn and soybeans. And I always told my students, trying to emphasize so they could remember, that I said, you'll know when you hit the Jackson Purchase because you can smell it.
Yeah.
It smells like hogs. I mean, there's so many feedlots and hogs down there, and they got so much corn and soybeans that you can smell the Jackson Purchase 50 miles before you get there. It smells like hog poop. But Paducah, you know, it's a great city on the Ohio River, you know, it's down there. And Kentucky Lake and Lake Barkley, land between the lake, recreational. Murray's College is down there. You know, it's good fishing and hunting. And I went goose hunting down there one time, when I wasn't riding a Greyhound bus. And that was fun. It went in winter time. It was fun. I used to like to hunt a lot. I won't kill a rabbit or a squirrel or a mouse right now, you know, the later part of my life. But, there was a time. where I thought I was, King James the Hunter.
He was Daniel Boone out there.
Daniel Boone for a long time, But, the Green River runs down there, like we were talking about, through western Kentucky coal fields, empties into the Ohio, which forms our northern boundary of Kentucky. I always tell my kids, like I said, I want you to list one product that comes from each region.
Yeah.
And I said, when it comes to the Jackson Purchase, just write hogs will be all right. Just write hogs, and I'll give you 100%, give you an A+. And you can say, western coalfield coal. You can say corn, soybeans from the Pennyroyal. The knobs are actually orchards and trees.
Okay.
There's a lot of little family sawmills and family farms all over the place, which is really cool. And you got Eastern Kentucky, and you got the coal and the timber.
You say horses for the bluegrass?
Horses for the bluegrass. Tobacco, big tobacco area. So it's just, it's just so different. I mean, you think of Kentucky. Well, I'm from Kentucky. Well, what part of Kentucky?
Yeah.
And if you say you're from Harlan,
That matters.
It matters. Yeah. It matters. Or if you're from Lexington or Frankfort or somewhere, Richmond, or if you're, it's just totally different. Or if you grew up in Paducah on the Ohio River, you got a whole different way of thinking and different people and different accents too. I mean, you can listen to you and listen to me, and you can tell that there's a difference in accent because of where we were raised. And it's just total different politics. I'm so sick of politics right now, but the different politics in different regions.
Yeah. Well, and you bring up accents. Like I just think of even my son, now since he's started coming to school more, you can see he's starting to his accent is starting to develop. I guess you want to say it that way.
Well,
to
is
more
he copying Mom and Dad?
meeting his peers, and I guess his peers really, because he's been around us for a while.
Pretty long while. Yeah. Well, that's neat. Well, Kentucky is such an interesting place, and it's just so beautiful. And this time of year, the fall of the year, the leaves and the trees, and gosh, today's another beautiful day. I got my dog out in the truck, and as soon as we get out of here, we're going to go take a hike in the woods somewhere and wander around, and look at things. You got in the Pennyroyal region too. You got Mammoth Cave.
You kind of forget about that because you look at the geography of it, and the cave is underground.
That's right.
So it's another completely different place.
In the bluegrass and your limestone soils, and in the Pennyroyal, you got caves out the wazoo. There are caves everywhere. Call that karst topography, and you can just tell when the hills roll a certain way that they're that there's cave country, and you can spot them and find them. And in Eastern Kentucky, I know we're bouncing around, but you've got the Natural Bridge State Park, and where we go, and I've got Black Mountain down at Settlement School, Pine Mountain Settlement School.
That's the highest peak is Black Mountain.
That's right. That's right.
In the whole state.
In the whole state, and that's one we were talking about in one of our earlier podcasts about. Harlan County, including Cumberland Gap at one time, and then the counties broke off and made other counties for that. But the Jackson Purchase on the far western part, that was, we said Andrew Jackson, 1818, he bought it from Native American group, the Chickasaws. And down there's artifacts everywhere, and there's burial grounds and all that stuff. I've known people that have gone down there and did research and excavated and did all kinds of things down there.
And now, would you really call it Waterland, or not maybe?
I call it kind of alluvial soils, that are washed in. And the Native Americans were in the Mississippi culture, they call it.
It's not swamps. It's not swamps.
There are some.
Yeah.
There are some swamps down there. There's even cypress trees down there.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
And there's cotton. They grow. It's the only part of Kentucky where they grow cotton. I saw my first cotton fields down there. My daddy took me down there just to show me cotton field. I said, far out, man. That really was. And he did. And we went in a field where there's a bunch of cotton. And I remember he said, well, I can guess the farmer of mine. We picked one cotton ball. And I took that to school at Sharon when I was in elementary school.
Look what I got, boys.
I know it. It was a real cotton ball. And I thought I'd found heaven. But, that's, there's swampland and everything else.
Is it what you got? Ballard, Carlisle, Hickman, Fulton, Graves, McCracken, Marshall, and Callaway.
We don't hear that much about those down.
You don't.
Not in the news. I didn't even know Western Kentucky existed when I lived in Bluegrass.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I'm being honest, the farthest west I've been would be Christian County.
Yeah.
I've not been any farther than that. But it's a farther way out there.
I went back and forth to the Ozarks in Missouri. And it's where my son teaches school now. And when I was little, my dad taught there. My first school I went to was Kickapoo. That's what it's called. It's named after an Indian. Kickapoo Elementary.
Wow.
In the Ozarks Mountains.
Wow.
First grade, kindergarten. Yeah.
Old Kickapoo.
My brother got me in trouble on a bus, and the punishment was that we had to stand up in front in the stage in the gym while all the buses unloaded in the morning, and stand there, and everybody'd come in and laugh at you, make fun of you because they knew that you had misbehaved.
Wow.
And I was just a little kid. I was like a kindergartner, you know? And I got, so embarrassed and so scared that I wet my pants, just standing there. I was freaked out that I'd done something wrong.
Yeah.
I never did anything wrong
Yeah.
until I got in high school, and I didn't do anything right, after that. But before, man, I was a teetotaler.
Yeah.
I got straight and narrow for me, man. Shave my head and put on the overalls. That's all my early pictures. That's what I look like. I had a shaved head, wore overalls, and a flannel shirt, 20 all year round. Summer, winter, didn't matter. So that was it. So I fit into Kentucky real well. When I first came here, some kids laughed and made fun of me, and I guess some people still laugh and make fun of me. But probably always will.
Yeah. When I went to college. And living in Lexington, there was always those kids that were from Paducah, and I'm sitting there talking to them, and
like Martians.
Well, yeah, and they're like, I was like, how long does it take you to get home, or whatever?
3 or 4 hours.
3 or 4 hours. I'm like, oh man, it's 40 minutes for me. I'm home.
What do you do? Ride a bike or something?
Yeah, but it's a distance.
It is crazy. It is.
And I know we have listeners that are from western part of.
Well, sure.
And
beautiful.
Getting out there, learning, it's so easy and natural for me to talk about William Whitley, Benjamin Logan, because it's right. It's been in my life my whole life. Right. But finding stuff
looking
farther west,
it's staring you down.
Yeah. But we'll get to it. We're learning.
Yes. But I just, the geography of Kentucky, the regions of Kentucky, it's the base from which all history comes from.
Yeah.
You have to know it and familiarize yourself with it, and from there, I used to kind of say, well, why did people live in log houses? I'd ask my class, because there were trees to cut down, they really build it out of rocks, or sand if they're out in the desert or something.
Dig a hole,
wherever. But, it's everything we do and think about is because of the natural resources around us, and it's still that way today. And, if coal goes kaput, which it probably is going to if it hadn't already in eastern Kentucky. We talked about that. It's gone. It's dead. So will the region if it's all dependent on coal. And if timber prices go down, that's going to affect. If they go up, that's going to affect things. And, what industries come and go, the market.
What is, and you may not know this right off, but the elevation-wise between western coal fields and eastern coal fields?
I used to know that. That's a really good question. I know I used to draw on the board. Eastern Kentucky do a kind of a side view of it, and used to show the mountains and then come down to the bluegrass, which is actually was high at one time and geologically got eroded out. So the bluegrass is an inverted bowl.
Yeah. Okay.
Stuck down in the ground, and then you go on. So and then as you go to the far eastern to the Mississippi River, that's the lowest point. So it's just like a slope. If you just wanted to draw even a straight line from being high on the right to low on the left, that's Kentucky. It's not the same. There might be a little bump for the knobs or something, but who's counting? That's one reason the soils are so good, because I used to know more than I do right now, but central Kentucky used to be kind of like eastern Kentucky with high mountains, and because it was limestone, it eroded down. But eastern Kentucky has limestone too, and it may be under the coal, whereas the coal that was once in the bluegrass regions eroded away down to the limestone. base. And remember, limestone are sedimentary rocks as well as coal, which was covered with water, comes from the ocean. And I don't know what was in Western Kentucky. I don't know the ocean ever went that far. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, this was all covered by water, and that's the evidence of it. For millions of years, we were underwater. And then, you know, the forces inside the earth pushed up eastern Kentucky in the mountains.
Yeah.
And they're relatively new. No, they're old.
They're old.
They're old.
Yeah.
Yeah, we looked at both each other. Wait a minute. Let's see if we can say
The Rockies.
things.
The Rockies
are
the
new, but
yeah.
they're because they're rounded. They're weathered, eroded. But they used to be higher than the Rocky Mountains at one time. So there's been a lot of erosion and a lot of things happen, and geologically, which is I find just fascinating. You know, I just find it fascinating.
And that all goes into the caves and all that stuff. It all fits in.
Soils, it all fits in. You know, the pH, what grows there. You know, far out, man. Yeah, well, man. Yeah. Just take a Greyhound bus and ride it across Kentucky. If you survive by the time that you get there. But certainly because of the geography, you know, Kentucky's an agricultural state and used to be more of one than it is now. But, you know, it's got a nice complement, most places do, of industry and agriculture. And, you know, all the eggs aren't in one basket.
Yeah.
But certain regions, there's more eggs in one basket than others. Just like the Pennyroyal is really invested in agriculture, and Eastern Kentucky is still parts of it in coal.
Holding on to the coal.
And you know, the bluegrass is just the bluegrass. They got the hay and the horses, and they got the soybeans too. And,
living high over there in the bluegrass.
but because Kentucky has a wide variety of natural resources, including water and soil and coal and trees, it makes the state what it is. Did you know Kentucky has more man-made lakes than any state in the United States? Did you know it did have more freshwater springs than any state in the United States until Alaska joined? And Alaska has more than Kentucky. We're second, but we were first until Alaska.
Well, Alaska.
And we were the number one producers of spring lambs. Kentucky was the sheep industry. Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. But, you know, that changed because as urban centers grew, there were dogs, and they went out in the field and killed the sheep, and so that really hurt the industry.
Wow.
Plus, the wool industry, when they started the first cars and things up to the 50s, I guess, had wool for the interior of cars, and they changed it to synthetic, and that destroyed the sheep industry in Kentucky. So there's a lot of things like that, you know, that have affected it. But
well, you know, when you talk about mining, and we talked about it before, how mining was only 1%.
Right.
You know, 1% of the employment. That and it's kind of been that way for a while. But we talked too about how that might be 1% of the people are miners, but that 2 or 3 jobs rely on that.
Absolutely. Same way with agriculture. Tractor salesmen and fertilizer people and county agents and all kinds of stuff. They go on. The big thing about Kentucky, of course, in agriculture was when we began to get serious about, I don't know that we're still serious, but, you know, about how tobacco was harmful and the government cut the price supports and so forth. And also the allotment and poundage system, you know, that kind of threw it open and people began to understand that tobacco kill you.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of them that still don't get that today.
Yeah, that was,
tobacco can kill you, Mountain Dew will. Seriously, that's the thing. You know, no teeth in your head. And, you know, after a while, you go from tobacco to
I don't need no
Mountain
teeth
Dew.
in my head if I'm drinking my Dew.
That's right. It goes from no teeth in your head to tobacco to meth. You know.
Which tobacco?
Yeah, and they'll all take your teeth out.
Tobacco was, it was pretty... it was the biggest industry for,
it really was.
I don't know, did it outpace horses, really?
Probably.
But from the early 1900s till, like you said, probably...
Really, the 1700s on.
Well, yeah.
They grew tobacco early. We got, as far as Kentucky, we've got the cardinal. I don't know if our listeners know what the bird is. The goldenrod that we see this time of year. And we got the thoroughbred, of course, is the horse. And Kentucky spotted bass is the fish. And it's the gray squirrel, not the red squirrel. Talking about squirrel and gravy.
Where do you find the gray squirrel?
We're called the Bluegrass State, named after pretty much the Bluegrass region, which has, you know, in the spring, the pod turns blue, the seed head on that grass. The tulip tree, tulip poplar, which is the ones that early pioneers built their cabins out of is the state tree. And that's a good one. It used to be Kentucky coffee tree, and they changed it to the tulip tree. Mm-hmm. Big fight and big legislature.
That ain't the right tree. Right. We need this tree.
Right. We've done a lot on famous people. We've also got John James Audubon.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
that's somebody
that
is definitely not as well known as you would think.
He's not, but he is too in other ways. He sure is.
Drew a lot of birds.
He did. He really did. And there's a museum down there in western Kentucky, Pennyroyal Region. Mm-hmm. But, so much to see and do in Kentucky.
Yeah.
So much to feel. It's such a unique place, and Kentuckians are very proud of their state, as we've talked about, and their counties. I know we throw off on them sometimes, but sometimes they deserve to be thrown off on. Other times they need to be glorified, and, there's no place like Kentucky. Hold them up, man.
That's one thing, too, I'll say, it's definitely Kentucky. People... It probably goes more with their county, take a lot of pride in what county they're from or this and that. And which, Kentucky's unique in that sense as far as most times when you ask somebody where they're from, they say the county they're from.
Right.
And not necessarily
a
city or a town or anything like that.
That's right.
But, you talked about all those too, but, you can't forget to bring up Louisville as far as, it's completely different in many ways, but also similar in ways as well.
Many of us try to forget Louisville.
But, I've always enjoyed going to Louisville.
Yeah.
It does definitely give us more.
Right. Metropolitan, large city.
Metropolitan diversity. It's
a different mentality, too.
Mm-hmm,
It really is.
But I've talked with plenty of people from Louisville and trying to connect, what's the similarities between Louisville and, say, rural Eastern Kentucky.
I try not to talk to them.
And,
they take a swing at you?
There's poverty, there's problems.
There are.
They in both a large city, I think, is Louisville like the 16th largest or the 20-something?
I don't know.
But
I can't get out of Kentucky. We're number one in Kentucky. We've got 120 counties in Kentucky. That's important. A lot of counties. Counties.
Well, and I think Kentucky is one of the. I don't know. I don't know exactly, but one of the states with the most counties.
It is. It is.
Because 120 is a lot, but why is there 120?
There's a lot of reasons. Jurisdiction, politics,
also,
national geographics.
Geographics, yeah. I mean, think about all the rivers. And when you look at some counties and you think, well, if you look at, I think, like Iowa, if you look at Iowa's counties, they're all squares.
Squares. Perfect.
Now, if you look in Kentucky, though,
oh God, they're every shape amazing.
Yeah, because of rivers, creeks, all that stuff that goes through. And, if you ever look at these old deeds of a county line, they'll say, up until this Jones's Creek.
That's right.
And, 100 yards or
big maple tree.
4 miles down,
Oak
then
tree.
take a left at Oak Tree. And
look for the gray squirrels.
Low honeybee hive.
Honeybee hive, yeah. Honey tree.
Yeah, so, that's right. And like Perry County.
Oh God, that's Hazard.
That is Hazard, yeah. And it's almost doesn't connect in some spots.
It doesn't connect with anything. There's no roads to it.
Easy. That's the in-laws. That's it.
Oh, I'm sorry. In case they're listening. Oh Lord.
So, it's
it is pretty remote though. Mm-hmm. Pretty wild.
Well. You go Buckhorn. Buckhorn is part of like my wife jokes all the time that you have to drive, 45 minutes to get to Buckhorn, which is in the same county.
Yeah. 4 miles away.
But anyway.
There was a joke that my dad told me when I was a boy, and you just made me think of it. And it was about this man from Kentucky went to visit this uncle or cousin or something from Texas. Mm-hmm. And the guy in Texas was bragging about how great Texas is and how big his farm was and his spread. And he said, I can get up in the morning, and he said, I can drive my truck around the border of my farm.
Yeah.
And he said, it'll take me till sundown, to get there.
Yeah.
And the old boy from Eastern Kentucky scratched his head and he goes, yeah, I understand. He said, I used to have a truck like that. Oh boy, that's probably a good one to end it on.
Yeah. So, all right, that's what we got. We'll bring some more stuff here soon. hope you had a good Halloween.
Yeah, I did. Stayed locked up. Hid.
I got
children.
I got a wild Halloween story.
Did they egg you?
No. This is an unexpected one. So we all decided, me and some family members and families and friends and stuff, we didn't really know how things were going to go with the coronavirus.
Yes.
So we're like, what can we do? They're probably going to cancel Halloween.
Right.
This and that. So we decided to go to a cabin. Go get us a cabin in the woods.
Yeah.
Down in Tennessee, and just stay there. Stay away from everybody. Just sit there and give the kids some candy and let them dress up and all that stuff. That's what we did. It was a good time. So we were out in the woods, and my dog had been fixed, and the vet said make sure they're doing low activity, that stuff. So we took him with us because we figured we can keep them, taking them to boarding or something like that would just be too much. So we took them with us, and that was fine. All that was good. So I was outside the cabin walking the dog, and there was another neighbor's cabin. I mean, you could see it, not too close, but they were out there talking, and they had a big old dog. Oh, gosh. And I was like, Banner, my dog, stopped and kind of growled a little bit. And I was like, okay, let's go down this other side. Yeah. So we turn around, and we're right in front of the cabin, right in front of the porch, right beside the steps. And as soon as we turn around, this big
jumped
black
on
bear.
Your dog.
No, this
black
bear. Yeah.
Really?
Ran right up the steps in front of us. I mean, it was like, we could have.
To your cabin?
Yes.
Now, let me ask you. We need a disclaimer here. Were you drinking some of the Tucker water?
No. But
you were sober.
Yeah, sober as could be. I mean,
you swear.
I swear on everything.
The bear ran into your cabin.
Hold on. I'll tell you more. So, of course, it runs right up the steps, and of course, it was right in front of us. And you're supposed to play dead when you see a bear. I did not do that, mainly because it was so close. I turned around and started, running. I had our dog has a leash, those leashes that you wind
leash.
up. I'm sitting there, zooming in, like yanking it like a weed eater, trying to get him up, and I get him in my arm, and I stop because I realize the bear's not chasing me.
Right.
And I look back, and the bear is running down the porch.
Yeah.
The other way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so
Did
we're
he jump
good.
in a rocking chair?
Well, then I remembered. At the end of the porch,
I got my family.
At the end of the porch, some of the kids, some of the adults were in the hot tub. So I started going, bear, and of course the people up on the hill, they all freeze and they go, "Did he say bear? Did he say bear?" And I don't know what they did after that. Yeah. But then I started running,
laughing. Probably.
I started running to the door, or to see if I can get warn everybody or whatever. And by that time, my wife opens the door and says, "There's a bear out here or outside. Get in here." And I was like, "I know, it just ran right by me." And everybody's kind of in an uproar. I was like, "Is everybody inside?" And they're like, "Yes, everybody just came inside."
Right.
And the bear went through our trash and ate up our trash, but that's what it was.
Oh.
It was.
What about your dog?
He was fine. I mean,
you started off with the dog. I thought you tore the stitches out of your dog.
Well, that's what we were all saying at the end. We were like, well, if you were all supposed to keep the dog, contained and calm. I was like, well, if he was a pop or pull anything, he did then, because I yanked him so hard and so fast.
Popped everything loose.
But he's good. He's fine and healthy. Yeah.
He's good to go.
So,
that's a good story. That's a great story.
That's wild.
I didn't get chased by a bear.
Well,
at least not really. Not that I knew of.
Just the bears in your sleep.
Just the bears in my sleep. Jumping over fences.
All right.
Over fallen logs.
Hope everybody had a good Halloween.
It was great.
And we got Thanksgiving coming up, man. It's the time of holidays.
It is,
everybody be safe out there. And share it on Facebook or find us on Facebook, Twitter, @KY History Pod, and so forth. We'll see you next time.
All right. Take care.